This is 7.11. It basically combines the elements from 7.10. So you're graphing linear inequalities. It's similar to graphing equations. There's just some little things you have to watch out for. You check the inequality for y and x, and we have y and x. Okay, the y is by itself, even better yet. So we have our m and b right there. We put a 1 in front as an x coefficient, so we see what our slope is. So slope y-intercept, and the slope's 1, and the y-intercept's minus 1, so we make that slope 1 over 1, put it in ratio form. So this is my y, this is my x, so -1 on the y-axis is down here. Then slope up 1, forward 1. Now's when you got to look for something, okay? Your inequality symbol has the equals to line. If it has the equals to line, it's just a solid line, okay? Solid line, just like before. So you take your ruler, make a line. I don't have a ruler at my house, so, okay, that looks crappy. Yours should look better. Now, because it didn't say equals, because it had an inequality, okay, the line is not just the answer. Part of the answer, but not the whole answer. You have to run what's called a test. So to run a test, you basically copy the inequality down. Y less than or equal to 1x minus 1. You copy it down. Now you pick any point to test. Any point as long as it's not on the line. I'm going to go forward 2, up 3. Okay? So label what that point is off to the side. And you can pick any point you want. So on the x, you're forward +1, +2. Then on the y, here's 0, +1, +2, +3. So I empty out my parentheses of the variable, and I put that coordinate in. So 3 replaces y, and 2 replaces x. So on this side we have 3. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 2 minus 1 or plus -1 is 1. So 3 is a bigger number, but the sign isn't eating the 3 like it should, so that's a no. Okay, so that point's a no. That means every point over there is a no. Every point over here is a yes. Okay, so we shade in, we highlight the yes side. Okay, next problem. Y is greater than or equal to 3x minus 2. Again, y and x are both within the inequality, expressing the inequality, and the y is by itself, so we have the m and we have the b. Okay, so slope, y-intercept are ready to go. So slope is 3, y-intercept is minus 2. So on the y-axis we go down -1, -2. And from that point we put, of course, we put our slope over 1. It's up 3, forward 1. Okay, now the equals to line is there, so it's another solid line. Okay, now if it's not there, I'm going to tell you what to write. It's not going to be a solid line. But, okay, make your line straight. Mine isn't straight because I don't have a ruler. Okay, now since we have an inequality instead of just an equation, we need to do a test. Okay, so I'm just going to write down my inequality, y greater than or equal to 3x minus 2. And I pick a point somewhere anywhere. I'll go back to up 3. You can do whatever you want as long as you don't pick a point on the line. Okay, so on the x-axis, that's this one, you're back -1, -2. And on the y-axis, you're up, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, so -2, 3. So y is emptied, and so is the x. Drop it, that's a 3 there. Okay, so 3 replaces the y, and then -2 replaces the x. So the left side's set with 3. This side you got a times, 3 times -2, and then plus -2. So 3 times -2 is -6, plus -2 is -8. That's a yes, because the positive is always bigger than the negative. So that side's a yes, okay? That side's a no. We highlight the yes side. Okay, example 3. Y is greater than 2x minus 6, so the y is by itself, and we have m and b ready to go. So the slope is 2, and the y-intercept would be minus 6. Okay, so on the y-axis, I go to minus 6. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. Then 2 over 1, so it's up 2 over 1. Okay, now we don't have the equals to line, it's just a greater than symbol. So instead of a solid line, it's a dashed line. So you just take your ruler, but instead of making just a continuous solid line, you just go dash, 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 dash. Okay. Because then because on the line is all the points that are equal. Well, it's not equal. Okay. Now you run your test. You still do the test like you always do. I'll go 2, 2, forward 2, up 2. So on x, positive 1, positive 2. On y, positive 1, positive 2. That's an xy, sorry, xy. So copy down your inequality, y greater than 2x minus 6, and just empty your variables out of the inequality. We will replace those variables with the values. So 2 replaces the y and 2 replaces the x. So on this side we have 2. On the other side we got 2 times 2 minus 6. You could make it plus negative. So that's 4. 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2. Now positive is always bigger than a negative. So here's the larger value and it eats the bigger number. So that's a yes. Okay. So yes, that point's a solution, and so is every other point on that side. And all the no's are on the other side, and then highlight the yes side. Okay, example 4, y is greater than negative 3x. Okay, y and x are both in the equation. So we have our m at negative 3, then we put a plus 0, and that's your b. Okay. So the slope would be negative 3 over 1, and the y-intercept would be 0. Okay, so xy, y-intercept is 0 is just right on the middle, because that's where 0 is at for y, 0, and then the positives and the negatives. And then you're down 3, forward 1. Okay, there's no equals, so that's going to be a dashed as well. Okay. Dash, 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 dash. Then I pick a point. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it doesn't matter where you pick the point as long as it's not on the line. If you only like positives, you stay in this little quadrant here. So 1, 2, 3. There's my x. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my y. I like to put that over here though. Okay, so on my test, I write down y is greater than negative 3x plus 0. If you don't want to write the plus 0, you really don't have to. Then we empty the variables from the inequality and we test the point I picked and fill the variables in. So 5 is y. 3 is x. So we have 5. Negative 3 times 3 is negative 9, plus 0 would just be negative 9. So a positive is always bigger than a negative, so that's a yes again. So I put yes, and every point over there is a yes. This point, any point I would pick. And over here is no. Okay. So I shade in the yes side and the no side. Okay, now example 5, we have negative 2x, that's a negative 2x, minus 3y is greater than or equal to 6. Now we have y and x, but we have to isolate the y and get that by itself. So, remember that is a negative 3 multiplier on the y, okay? And if it's negative, you have to apply the opposite rule, but when you apply the opposite rule, you also have to flip the symbol. So it'll go from -2 to +2, -3 to +3, +6 to, and then the sign flips, excuse me, and then +6 to -6. You can't forget to flip that sign, okay? So now my new equation, I now try to get the y by itself. So I have a +2x there, so I would subtract 2x, create a 0x, and subtract 2x. So the new symbol, the equals to line is still there. It doesn't go away, it stays no matter what. So 0 minus 2 is -2x, and then plus the -6. Then I divide everything by the y coefficient of 3. So we're dividing by a positive, so this -2 divided by 3 is a decimal, so you leave that in fraction form. And -6 divided by 3 is -2. Now you got your m and b, now everything's the same as before. Okay, so slope is -2/3, and the y-intercept is -2. So on the y-axis we go to -2, and then from the -2 we go down 2, forward 3. Okay, the equals to line is present, so it's a solid line. And then we conduct our test. So when you're doing your test, go from where you left off at. Just copy the inequality where you left off. The y less than or equal to -2/3 x plus 2. And then I pick a point somewhere. I'll go forward 2, up 2. Okay. So on the x, that's 2. On the y, it's 2. So I replace, empty your variables out. So parentheses. So 2, 2. So this side has a value of 2. On the other side we got times and we got plus. So first I take -2/3 times 2, and I got -1 1/3. Okay. Then keep that on your calculator, because now you got to add 2. Just hit +2 and you get +2/3. So I have +2 whole and then 2/3. Well, 2 whole is bigger than 2/3. It's not eating that, so that's a no. Okay, so no, and then yes is over here. Okay, next one. X minus y is less than or equal to 3. So again, we have y and x, but the y is not by itself, so I don't know what the m and b are. Okay, so I'm going to apply 1 coefficients in front, and that's a -1, and we don't want the y term to be a negative. Okay, so I got to apply the opposite effect. So +1 goes to -1, -1 goes to positive, the less than goes to a greater than, the equals to line stays, and the +3 goes to a -3. Don't forget to flip the sign. Okay, so you add 1x, then we make a 0x and add 1x. And we line up our symbol with the equals, and on this side of the symbol we got 1 times y, 0 plus 1 is 1x, and then we add the -3. Now we divide everything by 1. Okay, so it's going to be +1x and -3. So now you have your m and your b. So slope, y-intercept. So the slope's 1 over 1. Y-intercept's -3. So on the y, -1, -2, -3. And then you're up 1 over 1. Forward 1. Okay, now the equals to line's there, so it's solid. Okay, so it's a solid line. And then you pick a point. I'm going to go forward 1, up 1. Okay, so that point I picked is 1, 1, both positives. Okay, so I'm going with this on my test. I go with where I left off, not where I started. So y is greater than or equal to 1x plus -3. I empty my variables from the inequality. And And then 1 for y, 1 for x. Okay, so this side has a value of 1. This side I take 1 times 1 and add -3. So that's 1 plus -3, and that's -2. So the positive is bigger than the negative. Okay, that's true. That's a yes. Okay, so yes, no. Remember, it has to eat the bigger number to be a yes. So that means every point over here is a yes. Okay, last page. Example 5. -2x plus y is greater than or equal to 3. So again, x and y, but the y has to be isolated. It has a 1. It's a positive 1, so put check. You don't have to switch anything. Okay? So we add 2x, make a 0x, and add 2x. So we have 1 times y. 0 plus 2x is 2x plus the 3. Now we divide everything by the 1. This is going to be 2x plus 3. MB is set to go. So I've got a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of plus 3. Put a 1 under your slope. So on the y-axis, 1, 2, 3. And then from there I go up 2, forward 1. Okay, the equals to line is there, so it's another solid line. And now it's time to do my test. Okay, so on my test I write where I left off, y greater than or equal to 2x plus 3. Okay, now pick a point. I'm gonna go forward 3, up 3. Okay. So on the x I'm 1, 2, 3. And on the y I'm 1, 2, 3. 3, 3. So y and x are replaced. So 3 replaces y and 3 replaces x. So this side you got 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. Well, 9's bigger, but it doesn't open up towards 9, so that's a no. So no and yes. Okay. So yes. You're highlighting that. Okay, last problem. Got this. 3x minus 5y is less than 15. 3x minus 5y is less than 15. So again, the y has to be isolated. Right now it has a -5 multiplier, so you have to make it opposite. So 3 goes to -3, 5 goes to positive side, and you got to remember the sign flips. There was no equals to line, so we don't put one. And then 15 goes from a positive to a negative. Okay, now you add 3x to each side, make a 0x, so you have a like term for the 3x to add to. So I line up my symbol. Over here we have 5 times y. Over here we write x first, 0 plus 3 is 3, and then we add the -15. And we divide everything by 5. Okay. If 3 divided by 5 is a decimal, you leave it 3/5. And then -15 divided by 5 is -3. So M and B. So our slope is 3/5, and the y-intercept is -3. Okay. So -1, -2, -3, then up 3, forward 5. Can't do it again, so just get by with 2. Okay, the equals to line is not there, so that's a dashed line. Okay, dashed. And now it's time to conduct the test. So on the test, I just write down where I left off. And then I pick a random point. I'll go back 4, up 2. Okay. Again, there's no reason, I could pick a point anywhere, okay? Anywhere. So on x, you're back -1, -2, -3, -4, and then on y, you're up 1, 2. So y and x need to be emptied. and then 2 replaces the y, and then negative 4 replaces the x. So on this side we have a value of 2. On this side we have 3/5 times negative 4, then plus negative 3. So I take 3/5 times negative 4, I get negative 2 2/5. And then I plus negative 3. Negative 5 2/5. Well, I have a positive and a negative, so it's easy to say that the positive's bigger. It eats the positives, so that's yes. So yes, any point over there is yes, and then no. So yes is where we highlight. Okay, and you have a 4-problem assignment. I think 2 of them are pretty quick, and then the last 2 you have to isolate the y. Remember, the y you don't want to be a negative.